So I can't even run this file at all when I'm not recording because that's how complex it is. So take a look at this fucking CPU thing. All of the plugins are closed. So many things are bounced to audio. Um, Look at all of the channels. Here we've got 56 channels, not including my reverb, delay, and sidechain. So this is by far the biggest track I've ever worked on. Well, at least by a couple channels in terms of complexity. Um, this is a dubstep song called Hevyhitta, and it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It is out on YouTube and Soundcloud, and it'll come out on an EP. And look, this is just me scrolling, and it's fucking eating my computer's ass. So I'm going to go over what I can without the project file breaking. Let's just so you understand the situation we're in, I'm going to turn the volume down to really quiet and just hit play. That's the situation we're in with performance on this project file. That's with the recordings turned on. That's with OBS running, obviously, but like even if I try to run just a single pattern. So how I started this track is I started with this rave stab thing. And I made it with Selena V from Arturia's V collection. And then I stacked that with a saw wave from Serum and an 808. Let me see. Yeah. I stacked that with violin, I think. This is trombone and this is tuba. Stacked it with trombone and tuba, and this is saw. Saw and square, both on a single voice, and an 808. So that's the stab. That's this pattern here. And that's just for the build-up, and there's a filter cutoff for the stab itself here, and there's filter cutoff for the vocal. There's a vocal sample here. It's just I didn't really think too hard about it. I just thought, oh, I need a vocal sample here. And ravers, put your hands in the air. Like it works just as good as any other vocal sample, I guess. That's really all the thought was in terms of that. And there's a copy of the same vocal sample put down with what channel is that? Jesus Christ, it's so confusing. This one, 52. With just a shit ton of compression. And there's risers and the drum loop and snares. Like this is just I don't understand why it's lagging so much just to play a fucking snare drum. I haven't resampled the project to audio. Like, I feel like that would be too much work. It would undo all of my mixing if I were to resample all of these tracks to audio and redo it, so I didn't. So, But just like look at the mixer and how many instances of Serum I have open. Like 16 instances of Serum. These are all like active. They're all like still in MIDI form, and they're all running on my potato fucking laptop. So that's that. In terms of like build up to the drop, it's pretty standard. It's just a riser and a bunch of snares with a cutoff filter, with like a low pass filter cutting off, and there's a drum fill and then a beat tag that I made with like text to speech. And then there's this sound here, which is just a resampling of the first part of the drop, the first 2 bars, I guess. Fun fact about this dubstep song is actually the first drop is 2 bars shorter than the second drop. And the reason for that is that the fake out in this drop before the drums come in feels like it's part of the main drop to me. And the fake out in the second drop before the drums come in does not. I don't know why it feels like that to me, but it just does. I think it's just because this for the second drop, it's just a completely different pattern. It's just quarter notes, and then it goes into quintuplets in the bass drop. So I don't know. That might be that's just a theory, a game theory. So for the basses, it's like in terms of like layers, it's pretty standard. There's like a little background effect, which is just vocals going ah. It's from Augmented Voices, also from Arturia. Kick, snare, you know. The snare, I think, is a phase 1 snare, and the kick is some random kick I found on Splice. There's this background noise layer, which is something I do in all of my tracks now. It's just a habit I've gotten into. I don't know. I've just like got this background noise layer, which is a sound I downloaded. Just, it is quarter notes. The CPU usage is what's making it sound like shit. But that's a background that happens throughout the entirety of both bass drops, like with only breaking during these like vocal samples or during the fake out. And that's just to give it more girthiness. And then the basses themselves, they're also pretty standard. There's just a fucking shit ton of them. And like, here's the first pattern. I hate this so much. The fucking lag, man. So it's a square FM with a saw, flanger, standard rhythm bass basically. It's not even getting desynced, this one. This is all of the effects, the processing that I have on it. And if I go to the mixer, that's 11. All I have on it is OTT. I'm not even EQing it. It's literally just OTT. And then this is another similar thing, but this one is more of like a more growly. It has a different waveform, Monster number 2. But it's literally like I hit copy and then did a similar thing here. Same same deal with this one. It's like same concept base for basically all of these, is I'm FMing something with a saw wave and putting a flanger on it. This one doesn't have chorus, but I mean, like beyond that, it's really simple. This one, this thing here, this pattern. This bass here, I made in a different project file. with the intent of using it eventually. It wasn't specifically made for this track, but I made it like earlier. And it's just a triplet. Same concept, square FM with a saw. High pass. This one doesn't have even a flanger on it. It's just I'm automating the amount of FM that's happening, so that's what changes the pitch. And this one is just like a wop, and that's square with a sine wave, which is being synced with a flanger. This one has distortion on it, but like it's really not that crazy. And this one is just a yoy, which is in this case my yoy is a triangle high pass with bit crushing. That's all it is. And then that repeats up until it gets to up until this vocal sample here, which is the quote of the guy from SpongeBob saying, "Oh brother, this guy stinks."
What are they, vegetables or?
And the lag is making it so I can't actually play it, but I'm sure you've heard the thing. Listen to the actual track, or you won't understand what I'm explaining. Listen to the actual song, or you won't understand what I'm explaining, basically. And then I go into a rhythm section where I switch the snare out for a clap and layer it over the kick. And all I've done here with the basses is I've made more of them. I've made more basses. And that's basically just this, whatever this waveform is with the saw, FM, sync, flanger, and it's got distortion on it, but it's really not that complicated. This one, I have the filter going up a bit more, so it's more liquidy. And on the effects processing, I have a tonal delay here using Effector to make it sound more liquidy, and I have Vocodex on it also. These are the settings. I did that on purpose just to make it more weird and gloopy sounding. I don't know exactly what Vocodex is doing. I just sort of fiddled with knobs until it sounded good. This here is just a vocal sample. Like, it's a vocal fill of this guy going, ah, and then it's chopped. It's sort of like a background effect that leads into it reprising and turning back into the main drop. And sort of this section here, I just took basses from the first two sections and then combined them into this weird patterny thing. And instead of having a breakdown section, I just go immediately into the build-up, into the second drop, with like very little for a transition. Like literally there's just an impact and a white noise downlifter. That's it. And then it goes immediately into the next drop. Like the ending of it, I just cut everything off except for this one like bass wub 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 thing and have a kick fill. And the second drop is here. The pattern is yeah, that's really the pattern. So I have quintuplets. That's the interesting thing about this, really. The bass itself is yet again like the same concept. I just have a different waveform being FM'd with the saw wave. And that gives it a more crunchy feel. And it has the tonal delay to get the more the liquid feeling, which is something I like personally. And then we've got a background layer here. This second drop has a background layer on top of the background layer that I made earlier, which is another same concept, except this is bandpassed, so it's like snuck into the background. Yeah. So that's that. And then there's a growl also, which I made in this project file, but I didn't use until here. I literally just used a kick drum as a wavetable. That's what I did. It's that's basically the default how to make a growl bass thing is you just like import a kick drum as a wavetable and then fling through it, use high pass. It's but yeah, that's basically it. And then it's just using those basses. I bring in and then I bring the original pattern back for a little bit. Oh, no. What I did here is I brought in another bass, which is like you could tell I was getting lazy at the end because I just wanted to fucking finish it, but it was just like this is the most generic rhythm bass possible. Go. I am pretty proud of the sound because it works and it sounds great, but it's not very interesting at all. I don't remember what the wavetable is. Uh, it doesn't it isn't telling me what the wavetable is, so I don't know. Who knows? But I used whatever that is in FM with a saw yet again, and then it's going through similar processing chain. I'm cutting out the sub bass from it. I added tonal delay and I put OTT. It's that is like the the one criticism I got from like Ravitex and the people in that Discord server were like, "Oh, it sounds too raw. You're not really processing the sounds." Well, I put delay on it, so I mean, like, that's something. But I mean, apart from the fact that I have a whole bunch of like slightly tweaked basses, the concept is pretty simple. Like I brought in a chant in the second 4 bars of the second drop. I've got filters. It's like this is just the logical conclusion of someone who's been making this type of dubstep for a while, you know? And eventually get to a point where you just take these basic concepts and then do this with them. And your computer overheats and crashes like 20 times and you have to export a separate like pre-master so you can master it in its own project file. Like that's the kind of situation we're in here. Like the concepts themselves are not too crazy. But then when you like break it down and do it to this extent, it ends up being a lot. Oh, this, by the way, is just a trombone. That's something I've gotten in the habit of using also is the BBC Symphony Orchestra trombone sound from this plugin here. I use this in basically every build-up as just like a generic brass shot. At some point, I want to talk to one of my friends who plays trombone and actually get a real trombone sample and like put it in my sample pack that I use. Um, but yeah, the song is out on YouTube and SoundCloud. It'll be out in my EP eventually. Give it a listen. I hope you like it, and I hope you learned something from this. Although this is like the most boring project breakdown I think I've done. Oh yeah, there's a reverse ride cymbal. The same ride cymbal I always use, the Apollo ride number 2. I just have that and reversed it is a background effect leading into the snares. I mean, like, if you've seen any of my project breakdowns before, it's like, oh, this is what he does with all of his songs. But I sort of went to the extreme with it. Like, oh, there's the amen break here. There's a drum fill. There's a background element. There's a stab. There's ride cymbal. There's a chant of this guy saying, hey, there's fucking SpongeBob sound effects. It's like, yeah. Oh, and then I also ended off with the bit. But that's the song. Hope you learned something from this video. And I also desperately need a new computer because look at the fucking CPU usage up here, boy. This is with the buffer size turned up and the graphic settings turned down, and with smart disable turned on, and with a whole bunch of shit resampled to audio. So that's it's mostly the effects plugins, the third-party effects plugins that are getting me. So we're if I'm gonna keep making projects this complex, I just need a more powerful PC at the end of the day. So thanks for watching. Have a good one.